All right, let's see if we can get this bad boy wrapped up. So we're passing the request to the server with the information about page size, page nums, and now also project types. So now on the server side, so now we go over to .NET, and in our controller, we need to set it up. There's a little voice crack there. In our controller, we need to set up to receive these things. Now, currently, we're receiving already the page size and the page num in this request to get the list of projects. But now we want to filter also based off of the project type. So if we come in here, we can say the next thing we're going to get is a list of type string that we'll refer to as project types. Now, by the way, it's okay if this is null. And if there's nothing there, we want to set it equal to null. So we're trying to protect ourselves in multiple ways here. And then it also suggests that we use the attribute here from query, which I can't remember exactly what that does. Let's see what it says. Specifies that the parameter of property should be bound using the query requesting. This is, again, with something to do with security, is my recollection. Wells would have to tell us about that, huh? So we're saying now we're going to receive three things: page size, page num, and then project types. So we're receiving those things in from the request, but how do we implement them into the query? The tricky part is we don't know if there's going to be one project type or three project types or no project types. And so what we're going to do is use something different than we've done before. We're going to use something called an iQueryable. And so we can say iQueryable is equal to whatever we want to call it. This is just our query. Is equal to go out to water context projects and set it up as a queryable. Now, what's the difference between a queryable and what? So this is being turned into just a generic list. What's the difference between a list and an iQueryable? When we use a list, this query has to be complete and runs immediately in order for us to get some data. iQueryables are built for building queries. And so we can build it a piece at a time, and then when we're ready, we can use the query. Does that make sense? And so what we're going to do, the reason we want to do this, now if I just say var, we're going to notice it will turn it into an iQueryable because we're saying make it a queryable. And so that way we don't have to make a decision, or we don't have to tell it right away if we have project types or not. We can make a decision. So we can say if what? And it's already got something in there. If project types is null, and we can say, well, that's probably good. If it's null, if it's not null, sorry. So if the project type is not equal to null, and then it also throws in project types any. So this is two different checks to make sure we have something in there. So if, and I need my and, so two ampersands, and project types is any. So two different checks to make sure that there's something in there. So if there's something in there, go into our initial query, which initially just contained the entire table, and say, look to see where the project types contains the p.project name. So we're going to go in and look to see, does it have that name somewhere in that query already? In other words, if the project types in our list match the project type of those specific records, as we come through and look at each of the rows, then that's what we're going to include in our query. So it's going to filter out any that are not a match with the project types that came in. All right, so then what do we do? So here, instead of calling water projects, we can just add on to the query. We can say query. So we've narrowed down that data set now. And we can still do the same thing with the skip and the take and the to list. Although we're going to get an issue, right? Because this is getting the total number of projects. And what we want is to do, well, let's watch that one work actually, because I want you to see the problem. But let's see if we can get this working. So I'll save this. It updates our API. Go back to the front end. Refresh this now that we've made some changes. Well, that's not exactly what we wanted, huh? We're getting no data. Okay, this was not in the notes. Let me try. I want to make sure I've done a save all here, which it looks like I have. I want to make sure I've done a save all here. And I'm going to restart this server. So Control C, and then restart that. And then once we're going there, server's up and running. And then here I'll do the same thing. Control C, and then npm run dev. And let's see where I messed up. Run this site. Oh, so maybe I just hadn't saved somewhere. So we are getting the data here. Now when I click on this, is it going to filter? And the answer is no. Now this one I actually do know. I'd forgotten to do it though. It wasn't on purpose. I don't want to take too much credit. So we need to watch for when this changes. And where is it that we watch for things? So as we're looking at this, trying to get it to refetch the data, to reload the data, where is it that we watch for stuff? If we come into our project list, you'll recall when we do this use effect, it's actually warning us here. It's saying, look, you're checking on page size, you're checking on page num, you're checking on total items, but you're not checking on selected categories. And so I want to say, hey, if selected categories changes, let's rerun this fetch and go get the data. Okay, let me save that. And now, when I click on it, it changes the results based on what's selected. Pretty dang cool, huh? But it's only selecting, we've got one record here for a dug well and hand pump, but it's giving us 3 pages. So we're going to get an error there, and that's the thing I was starting to say back up here. Our dilemma is that the total number of projects, this is based on all the projects rather than the projects that are filtered. And so now that I'm using an iQueryable, I can take that line out of there and put it here instead. And then instead of using the context file itself, I can just say go out to the query and give me the count for those results after we've filtered before we go finish out and print out that list and serve it. And so if I save this, it'll re-update that server. Hot reload succeeded. Come back to my website. And now, if I refresh and click on dug well and hand pump, it only gives me 1 page. And as soon as I get enough results, it goes in and recalculates to have multiple pages to go back and forth. All right, so we've added filtering, and now obviously it'd be a little more simple if we didn't have to make decisions about multi-select, but that's why I wanted to show you just in case. And we can have other filters down here. We could have other, and you've seen that in other websites. You can filter by different things. But more than the filtering here, this is the point. I'm going to wrap up in less than a minute. It's the principles. It's how we pass information around that you can now take those principles and apply them to other problems that you need to solve in React and with .NET. And so this was a lot. And I would suggest, reviewing, going through, and seeing what we did. But, we added this in. We changed some formatting. We grabbed the project types as a list of data. And then we went and added the functionality to track which ones of these things were being checked. And then we take and make a request to the server with that new information, and it passes us back that new information. So anyway, pretty cool stuff, I think. Hopefully you're having fun learning this, and it's working your brain over, getting your brain a little exercise, just like we would if we were hitting the gym. Okay? Spencer, out.